Welcome to Storycomic Presents, where we interview amazing storytellers and artists. This is episode 170. I'm your host, Barney Smith of Storycomic.com, and we're excited to have back with us the acclaimed and talented comic creator, Jay Mooers.
Hey, how's it going?
Good. I had to jump at this chance to talk to you because I just saw your recent Kickstarter, Faye,
Yes.
where it's a tabletop RPG where you actually play the monster.
Yes.
So is this, when I saw this, and now I was recalling our conversation or an interview we had back about Eden Park Tales. Is this an Eden Park Tales role-playing game?
Yeah, basically what happened was I created my comic series Autumn Gray, which is my flagship comic. And it takes place modern day. It's about fairies and monsters and things that go bump in the night, messing with people. And I realized I'd created a world for the comic series, and I had so many stories I would love to tell in this world. But anybody that does comics knows that, especially when you're working by yourself, telling stories in comics takes a long time. And you end up with a bookshelf full of things that you're never going to get to. And it drove me crazy. So then I kind of just tapped into my love for RPGs. I haven't played any since college, and that was 25 years ago. And I just kind of last things I played were like White Wolf, back when it was called White Wolf, Dungeons and Dragons 2nd edition, and a bunch of other ones from back in the day. And I just kind of tapped back into what I loved about them and decided to take the world I created and created a game. And like you said, it's a game where you play monsters, fairies, banshees. You can even play Mugwai. There's 35 starting races to pick from. And
wow.
And then there are 7 different elements you can pick from for your creature's main element.
Right.
And then once you pick your main element in your race, then you just build your character. And as you gain power, you gain the ability to build it even more. And you can build in your own elemental tree, or you can even branch out to the other trees. And you can even mix abilities. So you end up having, you could have an ice sword that is on fire if you really wanted to.
So you decided to make this as a game, take your role to make it as a game. Did you ever think about utilizing an existing gaming system, or were you set on creating your own system from the get-go?
I pondered it briefly. I've seen a lot of the homebrews for the other systems, and I'm like, I really wanted this to be its own thing. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to take the things I love from RPGs that I remember, add things I love from video game RPGs, and I just kind of took everything that I thought worked well and was streamlined and created a new system.
Okay. So give us a back of the book kind of summary of the system. It looks really innovative. It follows a D10 system.
Yep.
But as you say, you got over a lot of characters and classes or relative.
So currently there are 35 races, each with their own racial abilities, and there are 175 different abilities that you can purchase, mix, and all those abilities have levels 1 through 10. And at level 10, they unlock additional abilities. And it sounds very complicated, but it's actually very simple. You have 6 stats. You have your strength, speed, wit, intelligence, sneak, and charm.
Okay.
And every ability is tied to one of your stats or your opponent's stats.
Okay.
So whenever you're casting an ability, like right here, you have on the screen, you have a character sheet for a pre-made character for an adventure. And over it says abilities. You see how it lists an ability, then a level, and then a stat, and then it says self or other. That's basically all the information you need. When you cast that ability, whatever level you cast it at is how many dice you throw. And so like the first one there was it sneak other? Is that what it says? It's very small on my screen, so
Oh, so if you're looking at, for instance, is, you're looking at a sample character you here have you on your
right.
Kickstarter with a name Zinkles, who
Yes,
seems to be a brownie, and you have the ability Petrify, and it says
right.
level 5, and the stat is Strength Other.
Strength of it.
How would the player roll that?
So if you cast it at level 5, it would cost you 5 MP,
Okay,
and you could throw five d10s to cast it. Each d10 that rolls the strength number or higher of your target is a success.
okay,
And then you can just reference the skill to see what each success does. And
okay,
for Petrify, it determines how long Petrify lasts.
right,
So every ability is tied to a stat. You can whatever level you cast is how many dice you throw. And there's a MP mitigation in this. Um,
okay,
you always want to be careful about burning out of your ability points too fast. So a lot of times you can kind of judge your opponent and be like, I'm only going to cast this at level 3, so it only costs me 3 MP because I want to save MP because this fight may go on for a while, or this
okay,
or whatever it is may go on for a while. So all stat anything that's your opponent, you want to roll their stat number or higher, and if it's yourself, you want to roll the stat number or under.
mm,
So and all your stats are 1 through 10.
okay.
So every single ability plays off of that.
Okay. So how difficult, as a creative, as a creative person as you are, is like you do art, you write, and you make comics, you do books, and now this. How similar and different is making a role playing game as compared to making Autumn Gray?
So in Autumn Gray, it's a linear story. I'm working on just what I need for Autumn Gray. A role play game, I have to cover whatever is going to pop in people's heads that they want to do. I've been playtesting it for a year. We would find things that hadn't been addressed or issues that came up, and we would sort them out and continue on. Eventually, it got to the point where I didn't have to revise anything anymore, and that's when I realized, okay, we are officially at a place where the system works and it covers whatever people can think of that they want to do. It's very different. So I had already created the world, which helps, and the world takes place in the modern world, which also makes it a little easier because people understand. I don't have to explain the Great Society of Boston or New York. Like it is Boston, it is New York, but there are mischievous hidden things going on, whether you're a part of them or you're creating them. That's kind of part of the fun of the game. Is getting away with whatever it is you're trying to get away with. Your characters can be good, they can be very evil, they can be somewhere in between, but they are definitely not supposed to ever be discovered.
Right. Because that's one of the main things about this game is like you're not supposed to be discovered.
Right.
Right.
It is against Fey in this world. It is against Fey law to be noticed by humans, and as soon as you are noticed by humans, they basically send out a truant whose job it is to hunt you down and exterminate you. So
Really.
basically, the worst thing that can happen to a fairy is being discovered. And yes, I had a situation in one of mine where the fairies did not fairies, trolls, and monsters did not understand that these campers were live streaming them on their phones, and they ended up eating the campers and playing with the phones, and they got into a whole big mess there.
So talk to us a bit about the character creation. So when you do sample games like this, kind of what can your backers expect from the character creation process?
That's actually my favorite part of role playing games is creating characters, and I made sure in this game that I encompassed anything I could possibly think of that I personally would find fun. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so I made every race I picked out. I went through and researched different cultures, folklore, and fairy creatures. I have some Buddhist ones, Hindu ones. I got I tried to cover a lot of different bases. Obviously, there's a ton more, and There's always room for expansion books and that kind of thing. But to start, I stopped at 35 different races.
Okay.
They cover everything from your little 4-inch tall brownies, pixies, fairies, that kind of thing, all the way up to your trolls, your nymphs, your boogies. You can play leprechauns. You can play all. There's a couple examples. There's a boogie. You can play goblins. Basically, what happens is you pick out what you want to play as far as a race goes, and then each race you can choose from 2 different elements to be your main element. So you're kind of looking at what elements they can pick from as their main, because your main you can buy in every element. Like this is the flora tree here, where you actually buy into the starting point is at the bottom of the screen there, the affinity. That's where you start, and then you build up from there, and you build up to more powerful abilities as you climb up the tree. But when you pick your race and you pick your main affinity, that's where you start.
Okay.
As you grow as a character, you get more points to spend wherever you'd like, and you can continue building up in your tree. Or there might be something in another tree that you're like, oh man, it'd be great if I had that to mix with this. Like, man, I really wish I had some wings. So maybe you go grab wings from the fauna tree. But anything outside of your own tree costs more to buy.
Okay.
So the fastest one you can level way up is your own tree.
Your own tree. Yeah.
Right.
What were besides your work at Eden Park Tales, what were some of the inspirations that you got when you decided to sit down and make a role-playing game? What kind of research were you able to do?
Well, I delved into what's popular right now. Dungeons and Dragons obviously is kind of like the battleship of the RPG world. So I looked into that. I looked into a White Wolf or what, I keep forgetting what it's called now.
Yeah.
I looked into Call of Cthulhu, which is always a fun one. I had played a lot of cyberpunk. I mean, they're all different genres, but I wanted to see what works in the game system and what is kind of convoluted, and trying to work something out where the game is streamlined enough. So basically, this game, I've played it at conventions, and when you have a lot of noise around you and other things going on, it takes about 10-15 minutes for me to have the party fully understand how to play, which is incredible. Like I printed up what the information they need for their abilities and stuff like that, and they have it right there, so they don't have to keep grabbing a book to check. But after about 15 minutes, everybody understands the levels, rolling either your own stat or your opponent's stat. It all kind of congeals really, really quickly. And it's definitely this game is not as heavy in combat. Combat is chaotic at the point where a crit in this game doesn't mean good necessarily. It means you're on the edge of a knife, and it can either destroy your enemy or it can destroy you.
Oh, wow.
So like whenever you roll a crit in this game, which is rolling the exact stat twice. So if you threw 10 dice and you're trying to hit a 7 or higher and you rolled 2 7s, that's a crit, and you go to the crit chart. And then at the crit chart, it's a 50-50. You definitely you want to roll high, because if not, the lower you roll, the worse off you are.
Okay, that's cool.
It's like right at the, like I said, it's right at the edge.
Right.
Like something crazy is happening, whether it's happening in your favor or against you is,
And so one of the interesting things also about playtest, so you don't have somebody that's actively, as when you're looking at it from a comic creator perspective, where does the equivalent of playtesting come into making a game?
Well, so when I was ready to start playtesting this, I put together a couple different groups. I had a young group, I had a veteran group, a newbie group, and then I ended up stumbling on some people that all they do is role play different games all the time, and they were my official punch the holes in the system group.
Right.
And my wife was very understanding, because you know how do you have experience playing tabletop role play games?
Yeah.
You know how you sit down for that 2-hour session, and then before you know it, the sun is coming up.
Yeah.
Yeah, that happens a lot. Um, so she was very understanding as I spent the last year a lot of evenings, a lot of weekends playing games with different people, trying different things. I had the veteran guys. I had them all make high level characters. Just I wanted to see, when you start rolling in with like the top tier abilities, what happens, and it was it was very exciting. It worked out exactly how I envisioned. I mean, when you decide to cast something to destroy everything, it doesn't mean your friends are safe. So
Well, and how much did after playtesting? How many tweaks did you have to put into the
every,
system?
basically for a while after every session, I
Right.
was doing a revision and then sending it out to all the playtesters again.
Okay.
So it went through a lot of revisions. Basically, when something popped a hole in the process, I was like, okay, let's see how we can fix this, and that's kind of how you do it. And I kept reprinting books for a while, and that ended up costing a fortune. Uh, so eventually, I'm like, all right, we're sticking with PDFs, everybody, PDFs until this is done. So
Right. And so, how much did you? Was there anything during the playtesting part where your playtester said, "You got to get rid of this, Jay. This is breaking the game," but you really wanted to keep it? Was there anything that was there any pieces
I had to
of the
completely
game
throw
that you
away.
wanted? Yeah, that you had to throw away.
I was able to tweak everything. So if
Okay.
something was too powerful, instead of like it might be like each success times 5, I would bring it down to each success times 3 until it got to the right spot, or something. An ability was just too powerful, so I pushed it up the tree. So you actually have to be higher level before you can acquire it.
Right.
Um, so I was able to move things around on the tree and then adjust how much power they initially have in order to balance them out. So it wasn't too bad. I didn't have to throw anything away. Um,
Mm.
the very last thing I added was people were kind of wishing that picking your race wasn't just aesthetic. So I actually created abilities for all the races. Most of the
Okay.
abilities are more aesthetic than anything else. They're not like none of them really change the game, but it gives you a little like extra flavor due to your race.
Right. Now, the interesting thing about this is that you've taken a role playing game based off of your IP. Was there any concern about losing some kind of creator agency, knowing that other people are going to be telling stories in the world that you created?
So Autumn Gray actually takes place in the 90s. So this game takes place after the events of Autumn Gray.
Okay.
There are spoilers if you sit down and read the game masters sections of the book. It talks about the politics of the Fey world,
Mm.
and so there are some things in there that mildly can spoil what's going on in the actual game, in the actual comic. So I've warned some people, that are my diehard comic people. I'm like, when they bought the game, I'm like, have someone else be the game master, play your character, you'll be all set. Just stay out of there until you've finished Autumn Gray. Um, yeah, so and obviously the world can completely change based on the way people play the role play game too.
Right.
One thing I found fascinating is I've created some like 2 to 3 hour sessions with pre-made characters for people to play. Like those are basically my playtest games for conventions and stuff. And no two groups of people have ever played them with the same results.
Wow.
And I mean, I have this one that's actually a promotion right now, today only, which isn't when this is airing, but it was a promotion on Memorial Day, called Into the Cropper, which is about a group of brownies infiltrating a farm, and no two parties have. Only one party actually solved the mystery and confronted the villain and defeated it. Everyone else has done other things, and it's been just as hilarious.
Wow. And so how so I get my question too, based off of your IP and the world that you've created. Do you have any of those adventures that you wrote for the game? Would they be considered canon in your Eden Park Tales universe or Autumn Gray universe, or are those kind of separate?
Um, they aren't canon only because they can happen completely different depending on who's playing them, and
Right.
I don't like forcing players down a path.
Right.
The whole idea of the game is that you really can do anything, just don't get caught. So that's one of those things that actually kind of plays in favor with Autumn Gray. As long as you're not getting caught, whatever you're doing isn't going to affect what's happening in Autumn Gray. They're separate stories, you know. I actually am in the game itself. I am going to have character sheets for characters from Autumn Gray, so people that read Autumn Gray can incorporate them into the story.
Right.
And the starting location in the book of the game is the park, Eden Park, where Autumn Gray takes place. So you can actually like oh look, I got a map of the place with from the comic, and okay, this is where that happened, and so there's tie-ins.
Right.
So people that are a fan of one will get them from the other, but you can completely burn down a place that was important in Autumn Gray, and but the game itself takes place after Autumn Gray, so it doesn't affect the story of Autumn Gray. You know what I
Right.
mean?
And so do you conceivably have the source book take place? Can somebody run a game in, say, Northern Alaska, and would they have
You can
information
run
on it?
them anywhere in the world, and you can actually. I'm planning on releasing like specific area books
Mm,
in the future, but you can run them at any time period you want to. I'm
mm,
gonna do a book based on medieval times when you didn't have to be so secretive.
right.
I'm planning on doing a Greek one, like, and then obviously different locations. Like I'd like when I go do Boston shows to have a book of Boston, like with actual map of Boston and having like, all right, this is where these kind of things hang out, with the harbor, this is, kind of like work out like some of the underground faith things that take place in Boston.
Oh wow.
You could actually start a game in Boston with the Boston book, and then say I go to San Diego Comic Con, have a San Diego book,
Right.
just basically like additional, backgrounds and things of things that are going on in these different locations.
Right. Oh, that's cool. So Jay, let's talk about the pledge levels and see what people can get through the different pledge levels on your Kickstarter.
Okay.
So you have for $15, you get the Fey game, the PDF. So this is how many pages is this?
I It's not finished yet. I'm adding things as stretch goals
Oh
that we will
wow.
hopefully reach. I'm going to be adding some additional modules and maybe some additional monsters and stuff like that as we go here. But it's going to be somewhere around 300 pages, full color.
Wow.
Yep.
Jeez, that is huge. For $15,
A
that's a heck
PDF.
of a
Yep.
deal.
Yep.
Yeah. And then you have for $25, you have the Fey Player's Guide.
Right. Which is essentially the first two chapters of the full book. It's basically you have a chapter on creating a character, and then you have
Okay.
a chapter on playing your character.
Okay.
So it's basically it's a smaller book, but it
All
will
right.
give your players what they need. You still need somebody with the full rule book to play the game.
Okay. So then that's the $50 book. So $50 for a 300 page plus colored book.
Yes.
Wow. And that comes with a PDF and the book. And this, as you say, includes the player's guide.
Well, the first two chapters of this book
Right.
are basically the player's guide.
Okay. All right. Wow. Um, and and then you have that, and plus then you have the so what is the Fey Deluxe edition? You want to talk to us about that?
All right, so the deluxe edition is you get the Fey rule book with everything in it.
Okay.
You get two players' guides. So when you're playing the game at the table, you got the one person with all the rules. You can hand out the players' guides to people to reference. And then it also comes with a set of D10s for the game. 10 D10s is the most that you ever roll. So it comes with a set of 10 sided dice, and you can choose. I have a different when we scroll down a little further, when you see the dice, there are different colored dice for different whichever affinity you like.
Right.
Right here, yeah.
And so you mentioned like the affinity, like you have as a sample the flora affinity, and what are the different of what are the and each affinity has
It's essentially
different
the
paths.
element. Yeah, it's the
Yeah.
element that your character's based on.
Okay.
The choices are your standards are you got flame, aqua, terra, which is earth,
Yeah.
and what's and sky, which is wind
Right.
and weather and all that. And then you also have flora and fauna, which are plants, animals, and
Yeah.
then you also have glamour, which is
Okay.
illusions, um, and deceitful things.
Right. And so you get 10 sided dice. And is there like some inspiration, as we mentioned earlier, with the White Wolf system about the D10 system?
Actually, it wasn't so much the White Wolf system, and these are gorgeous. Though the resin custom made dies that they're making for the game itself.
Wow.
Um, those are gorgeous. I especially love the flora and the glamour, but I've
Right.
seen them in person. They almost look like they're glowing on the inside.
Oh. So Jay, what's the name of the company that you getting the dice from?
It's Expanded Universe Designs. They
Wow. Okay.
they're a great company out of New York um, that actually saw my game in action at a convention, and they were like, "We want in. We want to make the dice." And I was like, "Awesome! You guys are in. Come on, let's do this."
And this is based, as you say, this is an add-on, so people can get those as add-ons.
Yes, and so you can choose your element, or you can select mixed. I've had a lot of people that are concerned that they wouldn't be able to decide which they want, so I'm going to give mixed as an option.
Right. Oh, and is that something that you'll be that you're going to get the orders in advance, and then you'll be able to just buy these
When we
without.
send out the surveys to people
Right.
after the Kickstarter ends, I'll just ask people to select the dice type.
Mm. It's gorgeous. Yeah, looking at that, yeah, the flora really looks. I like the sky one too. Sky looks pretty nice
Yeah,
too.
and aqua looks really cool too.
Yeah.
Looks like ice
Oh,
cubes.
and then what's the Queen Dawn figurine?
So people love figurines with RPGs.
Yeah.
I've been using little plastic people on the game itself, just like
Mm-hmm.
they look like little board game. I guess they're called meeples. They're just
Okay.
like little colored stick figures on my grid. But I had a figurine company at one of the conventions reach out to me that wanted to actually craft and do the old school way. You sculpt it out of clay, create a
Okay.
mold, and then pour pewter figurines. They wanted to make a figurine of one of my main characters from the Fey folklore in this game, which was
Okay.
Dawn.
And how long did it take you to get this game together, and how much did this kind of throw off your other works that you've been doing with Autumn Gray?
Well, Autumn Gray should be finished by now. There's 10 issues to the whole story, and I'm at 8. I I I basically paused it to make this game.
Mm.
I still do a lot of work for other publishers, and my my list on the wall over there looms at me with all my deadlines on it. Um, and I have a couple that have gotten passed already, but I send apologies, and we're okay.
Right.
So this Autumn Gray has been paused in order to get this out there. I'm hoping, to be constantly working on this. I'm fully intending to keep adding things to it. I want it to be like a growing thing. I have other writers that want to write stories for it. I have other artists that want to do like artwork for it. So I'm thinking like different themed artworks for different stories, and just kind of keep going with it. It's finally, once the game system has been built, now I can, all those stories that I have on the shelf that I could never get to will be quicker to create now that I have a place to create them for. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah. And so you've already, and what's the Affinity card sets? That was a stretch goal that got unlocked.
Yeah, that's very popular. I've had a lot of people order them. It's basically a list. It's it's a set of cards, all 170 right here. It's all the affinities from the game,
Okay.
the abilities printed up on cards. So then when you have your character sheet out and you're playing, you can just grab the affinity cards and have them right next to you, so you don't have to look in the book for your references for the abilities. So it's just like a quick way to be able to just be like, all right, I'm casting this and I have it right here so I can look it up. All the information I need is right here. I don't have to flip through the book to check it.
Right.
So it's just it's a quicker way. You can just grab the abilities that your character has out of the deck and tuck them next to your character sheet. So you have them right there. You don't have to thumb through the book.
Okay. All right. And then you have also that soon to be unlocked as well as you have your additional adventures and
Yes.
at
Yep.
6,000, and then but then also you have your monster characters unlocks at 5,000.
Yes. Yep. I'm almost there now. The monster characters will just be an additional collection of monsters for the game. It's just fun to come up with, So it's
Right.
it'd be like right now I have all the basic monsters, but now I can start getting a little wild with them. Really come up with some creative alternatives.
Right. And do you have how many monster characters like that? Are you just getting hit with all these other ideas where people are like, hey, have you thought about this one? Have you thought about this one? And things
I
coming
have.
at you?
So basically, the way the system works is it's as long as you're a little creative, you can kind of create your own monsters.
Right.
It's not that tricky, but I have so many ideas, and I had to stop somewhere. I'm like, I can't just sit here forever and just keep making monsters. Um,
Right.
so I basically I had a list of I think 120, 130 different kinds of things you can run into, and I was just like, I'm stopping here, stopping. This is my list for now, and I'll get these all done, and they'll be here in the book, and they'll be enough to get anybody started, and it gives you enough ideas that you can kind of tweak them to create your own.
Right.
So basically, like I open the floodgates and let people have at it.
Right. And this is exciting. So you have also, as we say, you get your deluxe edition, which comes with the PDF, the book, and two players guides,
Yeah.
and a set of 10 sided. And then you have the wholesale books.
Yes.
So this is for retailers that would be interested in selling. So it's 10 books for 300.
Yes.
That's okay. Wow.
But you need the proof of business.
Right. Yeah.
That's so that I started getting hit up as soon as this started from retailers that wanted to carry the book.
Right.
So I was like, I got to create a wholesale option. So
right. I mean, this is exciting because like you have 18 backers already for your deluxe edition. You get another 13 for your complete. So you're already looking at people that are actually actively looking forward to playing this now.
Yes. Yep.
Wow.
I've had a lot of people asking if they can play test and stuff, and I stopped all the play testing a couple months ago so I could focus on getting the Kickstarter done once I felt like we had it all polished up.
Right.
And I think everybody was very disappointed. but I've said, like, the game's going to come out, and then someone other than me can run a game. It'll be great.
Right.
I can't run every game of this,
And how has this been for you also too, is like, as we're at the edge of, we're at the, as I say, we're at the beginning of the post pandemic. So how hard was it to run physical play tests during
half my play tests were remote.
Okay.
And I had, I learned how to, we'd screen share, and I'd be using Photoshop for my maps,
Right.
So I was able to do it. I prefer in person. I think there's a lot better interaction between people
Right.
in person. There's a lot of like secret note passing back and forth on things. I find it a lot more dynamic. But one thing I've loved about this process is I'm an entertainer at heart. I love captivating an audience. I've done a lot of theater. I've been an art director in movies. I've had a couple of roles. I've done voice acting and all that kind of stuff too. But I really, really love the absorption that happens with this. I love the fact that we sit down, even at a crazy convention with tons of people walking around, and for 3 hours, these people are completely involved with these characters they've either created or they've turned into their own, and just they're into the story. It's the ultimate storyteller rush for me. I absolutely love the fact that they just get lost in it. Like there's a Comic-Con going on. Look, there's a couple of celebrities walking by. They don't care. It's all about playing this game right now, and it's the best thing. But yeah, oh, very few times has anybody been like, I gotta go. Most of the time, they want to keep playing. So
Right.
I consider that a success.
Right.
But as I was saying before, like I love having something for people to play at a convention. I love just just making it more entertaining for people, giving them something other than shopping to do at a lot of shows. Something where they can completely interact in, like, and that's what this was all about originally for me. I had created a world and I wanted people to be able to play in it. And I'm so happy that it's come out so well, and the people, whether they know how to play these kind of games or not, are so into it. Most of my diehard people have been promoting this thing like crazy, just because they love it and they want to see it succeed.
Right.
This game is great. It's so much fun, and you get to be a monster. Come on.
So how do you, because I did see that you also have, some of our mutual connections, Rusty and Jim Lawson, and um, how much of this is your writing? Because I know obviously you have different folks that are helping out with the art on it, the art assets. How much of the writing is given to other people to do?
So I did all the writing,
Okay.
except right now I have a couple of authors that are in love with this that are writing some short stories. I'm going to reveal them as they get finished, because I don't want to promote somebody and then they never get around to it, and then I'm going to be like, oh, this is awkward. So they're currently I have a couple authors writing short stories to give. They're not like spelling out. It's not an adventure, but it's something for the players and the game masters to read, to kind of see the way the Fae actually exist in the human world. So
Mm.
they're coming from different angles and different ways of living in the world. So it helps, like, fill in any confusion people have. But so there are some stories going in here just to add flavor and depth to the existing
Okay.
Fae, and to, like, plant seeds of ideas
Okay.
in people's heads. But as far as the artwork goes, about 90% of it has been done by me, and then I've had some work done by, like, as you said, Rusty Gilligan's done some beautiful artwork for it. Jim Lawson's done some, and Ryan Santos has also done some.
Okay.
They've actually all given me black and white because I've been coloring it to fit the color scheme of the game itself.
Oh, and then are you going to color them then after? Oh, wow.
Well, I've
Okay.
colored them. I think some of them actually I might have up on the Kickstarter. I think
Okay.
maybe one of the Jim Lawson ones I have up on there. You can kind of tell because it's a slightly different style than mine.
Right. And so this is great. I'm really excited. I've always been a fan of Autumn Gray. I've always been a fan of your work as well, and I'm really excited to check it out. I love urban fantasy, and anybody that's a fan of urban fantasy, 100% needs to get this game. As you say, it's reminiscent of even as you say some of the video game setups
Well, like
of
the
the
skill tree
trees.
thing was definitely
Yeah,
influenced by a lot of, like, the RPGs where you climb up the tree.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, I love that sense of direction and accomplishment as it works up. So that's really cool. And as I say, you're you're right there. You're right there at that right now. It's you're close to the goal. You got more than a month away, so that's exciting.
Yeah, I'm at the point that we're looking at this. I this game has been up for 5 days. So
Wow, and you've already gotten that far on it
yeah,
already.
yeah. I'm hoping by over the next day or two, to hit the goal, and then the sky's the limit. I'd love to get to the point where we convert the books to hardcover. I'd love to get, I just want to get the book out there. I want people to start playing this game. I want people to have fun with it.
Right.
I want people to come up with their own stories for it. I want it to become like just that world that people can just build in, like a Lego world,
Right. Cool. Well, congratulations, Jay. I'm excited to check this out. I'm definitely gonna back it too. As I said, I'm a huge fan of your work, and I'm a huge fan of the genre. So you can see that backer number will get a bit bigger. So.
Thank you.
Great. Well, but listen, Jay, you got to come back on when you have expansion books out for it. I'd love to talk more about everything to do with Eden Park Tales and the world you've created.
Thank you very much. It was great talking about it with you.
Yeah, you're welcome. So talk to us a bit about how as you mentioned, like the creation of this. Did you have a point in time where you decided to let me this. I love now. I can timestamp this and I can write this.
This isn't happening.
This isn't happening. 5:30. Okay, here we go. So the creation of this was based off of the world that you created.
Correct.